Hello, I'm Brett Moss, and you're watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. Our guest today is Christine Hassler. Christine left her successful job as a Hollywood agent at the age of 25 to pursue a life she could be passionate about. She's an author of 2 books geared for people in their 20s, and her latest is entitled 20-Something Manifesto. Quarter-lifers speak about who they are, what they want, and how to get it. Christine is also a life coach and personal growth counselor. She specializes in relationships, career, and self-fulfillment. She received her undergraduate degree from Northwestern University and has a master's degree in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. She and her husband, Chris, live in Los Angeles. Christine Hassler, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you back to The Defining Moment. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you, Brett. I'm happy to be here.
Our topic today is achieving lasting happiness in an instant gratification world. And I'd like to begin by asking you to share a defining moment from your own life.
I was about 27 years old and about 6.5 months away from my wedding. And we were in a premarital counseling session. We were discussing religious differences and just, making sure everything was in sync before the wedding. And my fiance walked in. He'd been coming from work. And he sat down, and within the first minute of the session, he basically said, "I'm sorry, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, and I don't want to be with you, and we need to take a break, and I'm moving out, and I don't want to see you."
Wow.
And in that moment, my world really fell apart, because at that point in my life, I didn't have a career, I didn't have a lot of money, I was having some difficulty with my family, my health wasn't so great, but I really was in love with the idea of getting married, being a wife, and having children. I thought that's where my road was going, and this person was also my best friend. And it really was the first time in my life I really experienced shock and despair, and a sense of, I don't really want to be here anymore. Like, I don't even want to live anymore. And I realized when I share this defining moment, people have been through far worse than that, a broken heart. However, for me, in my life, that was devastating to me. And it put me in touch with loss. I'm grateful to never have a parent die or a grandparent that I was close to die. I hadn't even had a pet die at that point. And this was my first instant of loss.
Yeah. And what opened up for you in your life as a result of that?
So much opened up in my life because of that. First, I learned the amazing power of forgiveness and responsibility. It was easy to make my ex-fiance wrong. It was easy to make him a bad guy, to complain about my friends, to complain about him to my friends, to make myself a victim. I was the one who was dumped. I was left behind. He's a jerk. How could he? And it was also easy to go into feeling sorry for myself and a hopeless, helpless kind of way. But I realized at one point that was just dragging me down and wasn't helping me heal in any kind of way, and was just isolating me more. And it also made me realize I was trying to hate a person who I couldn't deny that I loved. Like, I was trying to put hate on top of something that I loved, and that wasn't working. So first I learned responsibility. I learned that there were things that I did in the relationship. It wasn't like I was this perfect person and completely loving to him, and one day he just decided he didn't want to be with me. There was plenty of things that I did that perpetuated that decision. He just had the courage to end what really wasn't working, what wasn't right. So I took responsibility for my end of it, and then I moved into forgiveness and really seeing him as a courageous person for ending it, and he was doing the best he could, and I was doing the best I could, and moving into that place of forgiveness and acceptance just opened my heart up. It really just opened me up. And less than a year later, I met the man I'm married to now, and things started to make a lot of sense. Once I met Chris, my husband now, in terms of why what happened needed to happen.
Yeah. Okay, that's wonderful. A beautiful, poignant, and obviously very touching testimony. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
And I know the other thing that's such a defining moment about that experience is I remember one night, I think I was on my bathroom floor, and I was just so distraught. And I made a promise, I was praying, and I said, God, if I ever figure my way out of this, if I ever, figure my way out and create a healthy life for myself again, rebuild my health, mend my heart, get my finances back in order, create a career that I love, I will somehow teach other people how to overcome disappointment. And I had no idea that promise would really manifest in a career that I love.
That's remarkable. Thank you so much for sharing that. Based on your research and investigation of the society and culture in which we live, what are some of the unintended consequences of creating a reality based on instant gratification and 3-minute attention spans?
Yeah, the instant gratification we've sort of become addicted to. We live in such a fast-paced society. It's like if you want anything in the world, all you have to do is go to your computer, and literally within, if not an instant, within a day, you can have it. If you want to talk to someone across the world, you don't have to write a letter and wait and wait and wait. It's like in an instant you can connect. So it's sort of become this way of being that we're accustomed to, that I want what I want and I want it now. And what's been lost in that is there isn't patience, there isn't a paying the dues, there isn't any kind of struggle involved. And so what happens is when people don't get what they want, they don't get that instant gratification, and here comes the symptoms of I'm struggling or I'm suffering or this is hard, and there's no familiarity with that, it can really put people in a downward spiral. I can speak for myself in that, when I didn't get what I wanted, take for instance, the marriage working out that I wanted, I was left in this state of, oh my gosh, I'm not getting what I want. I don't know what to do when I don't get what I want. I'm used to getting what I want. I've always gotten what I want. What do I do? And I really had to learn, patience. And I think the pitfall that so many people fall into in the instant gratification and the short attention span is missing moments in life, missing huge learning opportunities. When you're always trying to get something, or you're always trying to fill a void, or when you're always thinking about what's next, you're missing a moment of connecting to another human being. You're missing a moment where, intuition can come in and you get clarity about something. You're missing a moment to actually enjoy being a human being in a physical body, stopping and, the whole phrase, stop and smell the roses, exists for a reason, and instant gratification and short attention spans has totally killed that.
Yeah, okay, very clear, thank you. What are some of the pitfalls of constantly comparing ourselves to other people?
The pitfalls of constantly comparing ourselves to other people, the biggest pitfall is it's a no-win game and a never-ending cycle, because there's always somebody smarter, better looking, richer, funnier, more successful. There's always going to be somebody that's more, better, or different in some way. So it's a game you can never win. So why play anyway? And what it does is it puts us in a constant state of separateness. We're all human beings and we're all interconnected. And when we're comparing ourselves to each other, we're separating ourselves from each other. We're creating that internal competition and judgment of ourselves and judgment of another person. The truth is, no one is more or better. That's only our perception. That's only a judgment. And if we can really see through loving eyes, see through the eyes of God, we'll see that comparison doesn't really even exist. Everyone is their own unique being, but at the same time, we're all so alike in so many ways. And so when someone gets in that cycle of comparison, it's like self-abuse. Really is kind of the best way I can really sum it up, because it's constant degrading of yourself, putting yourself in low ego, or puffing yourself up and putting yourself in high ego and trying to make yourself better than someone, which at our essence, none of us really like to do. People might get off on it for a little bit and feel like, oh, I'm so much better, but all of us in our humanness have some guilt associated with feeling better than somebody else. So that comparison game is really just a game. So I encourage people just to get off that court.
Okay, very clear, very simple and straightforward. So what are some of the remedies that you can offer for freeing oneself from the despair which is created by comparing oneself to others?
Well, a good remedy is to cultivate the consciousness of abundance. A lot of times what happens with comparison is there's jealousy, or there's envy, or there's some kind of belief that if that person has that, then I can't have it. It perpetuates the thinking of that there's lack. But if we can all get that there's enough abundance in the world, and I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about just joy, happiness, success, there's enough to go around. And if one person has more of something you think you want, that doesn't mean that they're taking from a pot and you're going to have less. So that's the first thing. And then cultivating the consciousness of gratefulness. I had this assignment for my graduate degree at the University of Santa Monica, where for a month we had to really cultivate the consciousness of gratefulness and gratitude.
Yes.
And boy, was that fun. Like at first it was a little difficult, and I realized, oh my gosh, like I really walk around not really appreciating everything. But just being in the, I'm so grateful for this, and I'm grateful for that person, and I'm so grateful for that beautiful woman that I get to look at her instead of comparing myself to her. And I'm so grateful for that successful person. Like I'm learning from that person. I'm so grateful for my car, for my whatever. And it just the habit of comparison, or even thinking of myself in terms of a standard, just dissipated. It just disappeared. Gratitude took its place.
And I believe it's also possible to be grateful for things that we don't like.
Absolutely.
That aren't nice.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. And I'm so glad that you brought that forward, Brett, because if we can be like, okay, I'm grateful for the fact that I'm getting pulled over right now and I'm going to get a speeding ticket, and bring humor to it sometimes and bring the learning. I'm grateful that my fiance left me. I really am. And when I could get to being grateful for it and see it as a blessing rather than a bad thing that happened to me, totally shifted it.
Yeah. Why is it so important for anyone to gain clarity about who they are, what they want, and how they're going to get it?
I think it's important to gain clarity first and foremost about the question, who am I? I think that's the hardest question that any of us answer in our lives. I always used to answer that question by roles that I played or things that I did. I am a daughter, I'm a Texan, I'm a woman, I'm a wife, I'm an author, by things I did, roles I played, etc. But that's not who I am. Those are just things that I've done, or circumstances. It's not really who I am. And my process of really discovering the answer to that question was really getting to the core of, what are the qualities that make me me? When I'm really in my joy or in my gratitude or in happiness, what comes out of me? Like, what do I really have to share with other people? And that's the question that we all need to start with, is really, who am I? What makes me tick? What gets me excited? What really brings me joy? What makes my heart sing? And so many people focus on that question, what do I want, before they answer the question, who am I? And I'll share a short story where I got confused in this question. So I skipped ahead to the question, what do I want, very quickly, and was focused on my career when I was 16 years old, and decided I wanted to work in the entertainment industry. That's what I want. And when I left it suddenly at 25, 26 years old, I realized that I had no idea who I was. I was only chasing after what I thought I wanted. And what I wanted wasn't really true, because I never stopped to ask who I am. I picked the entertainment industry because in high school and in junior high, I was teased and I wasn't in the popular crowd. And I made the judgment that being popular equals being happy and liked. And to me, the entertainment industry represented the adult version of the popular crowd. And I thought, hey, if I can prove myself in that field, then I'm finally going to feel good about myself. So I designed a whole career over trying to heal an insecurity that I had from, years and years and years ago. And when I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been designing a life based on the concept that who I am is an insecure, unpopular person. And once I really got to, wait a second, that's not who I am. That's stuff that happened, but it's not who I am. Then it was more clear to answer the question, what I want, what do I want? And then I was able to see, gosh, what do I want? In terms of a lot of people think, what do I want? It has to equal a specific job. It doesn't. How you clarify that question are, what are the things you want to be doing every day? How do you want to contribute to society? Even something specific like, do you want to be able to wear jeans to work or not? Do you want to work with 50 people or work in a company of 100,000 people? What is the quality of life that you want? And then in terms of how do I get it, clarifying that question is really realizing that we're all completely self-responsible for any action that we take and anything that happens in our life. So how do I get it is it's key to focus on goals rather than expectations. I say to people, if you are at the bottom of a staircase and your destination is to get to the top of the staircase, do you take a running leap and try to skip steps all the way to the top? No, you'd break probably one or two legs.
Right.
You go step by step by step. So in the how do I get what I want, it's important step by step by step, rather than looking at the top of the staircase trying to get there, looking at the long term. It's important to have a focus and a vision, but really bring your dedication to each step of the process. The most important thing in clarity about discovering who you are is really asking the question, really realizing that it has nothing to do with anything outside of any of us. Clarifying who am I has nothing to do with any external thing. It has nothing to do with your relationships, your career, what you do. And once you have clarity about that, I think it's easier to kind of go within and check inside and see what's in there. You might discover a sense of humor that you didn't know was there. You might discover a passion for something that wasn't there. You might discover creativity that you didn't know was there. And so I think it's really just cultivating an internal process. To me, I think spirituality and meditation is crucial in answering the question, who am I? Because who we are on the truest level is a soul. It's what's
left over after we pass from this life.
Exactly.
It's what continues on forever.
Exactly. It's like this is the shell, right? And inside there's a soul. And we get so focused on the shell and what the shell's doing and what the shell has and how the shell looks that we forget that inside there's a soul where there's a lot of wisdom. But it takes that mind, that ego mind, kind of shutting up for a little bit to get quiet enough to start to look for what's within. So to someone seeking clarity, have a quiet time, start some type of meditation practice, start some type of spiritual practice, find a spiritual teacher, that can guide you in that discovery.
I think so many people live by the motto, the person with the most toys at the end of their life wins. How do we disconnect ourselves from that kind of mentality that's all pervasive in today's world?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading an article about conversations that a psychologist has had with people as they were dying, and no one ever mentioned their job or how many cars they had. They mentioned people they loved, wishing they had more time with people they loved, and that's what people talk about. And yes, America today is very obsessed with our toys and our games, and I do think that's in the cultural conditioning. I mean, it's all around us. Success is perceived as having a lot of stuff. Older people are not valued in our society. Age doesn't equal wisdom. It's like as you get older, you're supposed to be getting richer, not necessarily wiser. And we put people on pedestals that have achieved a lot of material wealth.
Yes.
And I think what helps is more people coming forward that have achieved a lot of that stuff from the outside and saying, hey, it didn't make me happy.
Yeah.
I go and I talk to a lot of groups of people, college students and 20-somethings, and I put this picture up of me with a well-known celebrity that I was dating briefly, and described my life, and I was at the Oscars, and I had this fabulous career, and I was making good money, and I had all these friends, and I put this picture up, and I said, I went home that night and cried myself to sleep because I was so depressed and so miserable because nothing was making me feel any better about myself. And I think as people start to share that doesn't matter, more people might start to get, oh, really? A Ferrari won't make me happy? Oh, okay.
Okay. Very clear. Thank you for your honesty about that. Please give us a brief overview of a process for how anybody can clarify their goals and dreams in life.
Well, dream clarification and getting clear on goals, there's lots of ways to do it. My instinct is to say right now, the first step is excavation. Before we can get clarity about where you're headed, you have to get clarity about what's been blocking you, like what's in the way. What are the roadblocks that are preventing you from really seeing clearly where you're headed? And an excavation process, a great thing to do is to write down everything in your life that you think you should do at the top of a list. Like everything that you should do, everything that you should do, everything that you should do. And you're gonna break that list down. The first thing you're gonna do is Cross out anything that you think doesn't belong to you. For instance, I should have 3 children. Do I really want that, or does my mom want me to have 3 children? Something like that. Anything that is not your belief system that you think got kind of put in you, cross out. And then you look at the list again and you evaluate, out of all the shoulds that are there that you think are your own expectations, what do you really want to do? You know, there's a lot of things I think I should do, but do I really want to? Like, really, do I want to? And then you're going to write a separate list of all the things you want to do. And usually that list is a little shorter than the shoulds. Then you're going to look at that list, everything you want to do, and think about each one of those things individually and actually picture in your mind what it would take to achieve those things. And your final list is, what are you willing to do? Because there's a lot of desires that we have, but are we willing to do the work that it takes to achieve them? And so that's your final list. You know, these are the things I'm willing to do. I'm willing to take the steps to achieve this dream or to achieve this goal. And then once you have your willing to list, which is going to be a lot shorter than your shoulds or your wants, then you start formulating action plans. What are the skills or the experience or the support that I need to start achieving these goals? And then we're back to the steps. And then what's the first step I can take? A step that doesn't scare me, you know? Like, for instance, if one of your goals is I'm going to move to a foreign country, your first step wouldn't be, well, I'm going to sell everything tomorrow and leave. Maybe it would be, I'm going to take a trip to a foreign country, or I'm going to have a conversation with someone who lives over there that's from America, something like that. So it's really a step-by-step process. Another step in really clarifying dreams and goals is evaluating if there are any limiting beliefs that may be stopping you from achieving them. If one of your dreams is to perhaps get married and have a family, and you have any insecurity or limiting belief in there that maybe I'm not worthy, or I'm not deserving, or I'm unlovable, or everyone leaves me, any of those limiting beliefs, that can really stop you from manifesting your heart's desire. So it's becoming very honest with yourself, and very honest with those belief systems that are in there. There's voices that tell you you can't, and forgiving yourself for having those judgments, and then reframing it, and affirming what the new belief that will help you support your goal. Like, I am lovable,
yeah,
I am worthy.
Tell us more about that reframing.
Well, we all have these limiting beliefs that got put in us from circumstances that happen in our life, and especially as children. You know, 50 people can tell us we're amazing. If one kid tells us we stink, we think our whole life that we stink. You know, we remember that one negative thing, and that sticks with us. So it's reframing any of those negative or limiting beliefs or misperceptions by first forgiving ourselves for making the judgments. Like, I forgive myself for judging myself as not lovable. And really getting to the heart of it, really going back and uncovering where that belief came from. You know, we all have to be detectives with our own life story. You know, we have patterns and ways of thinking and ways of being.
Decisions that we've made in the past.
Decisions and instances and experiences. You know, if I have a belief that I'm unlovable, I've got to like trace my steps back to see where I made that decision.
Yeah.
Where did I form that belief? Because it's not true. We're all lovable.
And yet that decision, the power of the mind, can keep that decision in place for a very long time. Unless you go back and change it.
Exactly. And I call it, in my coaching practice, I call it a finding the keys process. You know, when you lose your keys, what do? You retrace your steps to go back to find that original place that you put them. And we have to do that a lot with those behavior patterns in our life. It's like, where did this come from? And then we can bring understanding as an adult to that 5-year-old or 8-year-old or 10-year-old who went through that experience.
And sometimes you can't do that by yourself. Sometimes it's necessary to have someone who's qualified in doing that type of work to actually guide a person through that.
Absolutely. This is where counseling or having a coach or any kind of therapy or a spiritual guide comes in handy. Someone to support you in that process.
Okay, good. Why do you encourage young people to fall in love with themselves as a foundation for building a lasting marriage?
Anybody I encourage to fall in love with themselves first, and really to have a loving relationship with yourselves. It's sort of like, you know, when you board a plane, and one of the things that they say to you is, when the oxygen masks come down, put it on yourself first before you try to put it on someone else. Same kind of goes for love and relationships. And this is something that I'm, you know, learning and cultivating every day in my own marriage. It's like, if I'm not being loving and accepting of myself, I find myself being irritable and judgmental of my husband. It's a total projection. You know, so it really is that constant relationship with ourselves instead of expecting someone else to fill a void in us. And what I see young people doing a lot of times is trying to fulfill any kind of insecurity or ache or pain with someone else's love. If somebody loves me, then maybe I'll be happy. And no one else's love can ever fill a void that is inside of us that is incumbent upon us to fill on our own.
And so we either fulfill that on our own, or we can look also to God for that love.
Definitely. It can be teamwork. I'm all about teamwork with God. I'm all about that.
Very good. Thank you. Tell us why our perception of love and romance is warped, and about the wisdom in searching for one's soul match as a means of experiencing lasting happiness.
Yeah, well, speaking as someone who was a bookworm and read way too many romance novels and watched way too many romantic comedies and movies, I think that's one of the reasons our perception of romance is warped. I mean, the way movies are scripted and TV shows and even books, it's so romantic and it's so kind of far-fetched and it's so running through fields of sunflowers in slow motion, and we kind of think that's what romance is supposed to be like, either this hot and heavy thing or this, I look in your eyes and I see fireworks, and it's warped our sense of what love and true connection is, and put this expectation that we're supposed to meet this person and time stands still and we know they're our soulmate. And I don't believe in one soulmate. I believe that everyone we come in contact with is a soulmate. Everyone that's in our life we're working out some kind of karma with them. They're all our soulmates. There's no accidents in the people in our life. But in terms of building a lasting relationship, it's who is your soul match? Who is going to flow through life with you in a similar way? Who is going to help you strengthen your wonderful qualities that you want to celebrate, and then bring your awareness and help you heal anything that's holding you back. Not that anyone can fix us, but who's going to at least acknowledge that and support us through it.
When I think of love, I often think about the way parents love their children.
Right.
It's a totally sacrificial act.
Yes.
It's a total giving,
yes.
Especially if children are young. Parents don't get a lot back.
Absolutely. I think, though, that the love a parent has for a child is more unconditional than maybe a romantic relationship would be. And I hear a lot of young people especially say, I want someone to unconditionally love me. And I say, that's an unrealistic expectation. Because there's conditions to romantic relationships in terms of, things that don't go in a relationship. We're going to be more accepting with maybe a child than just in a romantic relationship. So I think that there has to be a realization that it's a partnership. It's not all romance. Some of it's like, a partnership. Are we really aligned here? Do we really share our values and morals? Can we communicate? That type of thing. What doesn't work for me? What doesn't work for you? What are the deal breakers in this relationship? I think those are important questions to ask.
Very interesting. So on that note, I want to thank you so much for having been our guest. How can our viewers get a hold of your book, 20-Something Manifesto?
It's on Amazon and also on my website, christinehassler.com.
Okay, Christine. Thank you so much for having been our guest today.
Thanks, Brett.
Really appreciate it. You've been watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. You can find us on the internet at www.definingmoment.tv. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
Thanks for watching this week's Family Federation report. If you're interested in the ideas presented in this program, please give us a call on 0800 True Family. For more information, we have free booklets. You can attend seminars here in Auckland. You can also log on to our New Zealand website, which is www.ffwpunz.org. Until next time, bye for now.